The handcuffs clicked shut with a sound that cut through the humid air, louder than the fading sirens. Officer Harlan Crow believed he had just subdued an arrogant criminal. He thought the uniform hanging in the back seat was a costume. He thought the heavy gold star on the ID was a fake. He was wrong, terribly wrong. The woman he had slammed against the hood of her 1967 Shelby Mustang was no criminal. She was Lieutenant General Amara Ellison, the highest-ranking logistics commander in the U.S. Army. And she was on her way to a classified briefing with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. In moments, Officer Crow's career would not just end. It would be destroyed by a single phone call that would echo through the Pentagon. This is the story of how arrogance collided with absolute power. The heat in southern Georgia pressed down like a living thing, thick with the scent of pine and melting asphalt. Lieutenant General Amara Ellison adjusted the rearview mirror of her pristine cherry-red 1967 Shelby GT 500. She wasn't in uniform. She was technically on leave, driving from a family reunion back to base before heading to a critical briefing in Washington that could shape the defense budget for the entire eastern seaboard. She wore a crisp white linen shirt and tailored navy slacks, oversized sunglasses shielding eyes that had made colonels question their careers with a single look. At 52, Amara carried herself with lethal grace. A black woman who had risen through ranks built to hold her back. She had shattered every barrier they placed in her path. She checked her speed. Exactly the limit. Precision was her nature. This stretch of Route 9 outside Oak Creek was known for speed traps meant to drain money from travelers and service members alike. She spotted the cruiser first, a black Dodge Charger, tucked behind a billboard. As she passed, the engine roared to life. Lights flashed blue and red. "Here we go," she murmured, voice steady. She signaled, slowed smoothly, and eased onto the shoulder, hands visible on the wheel. In the mirror, she watched the officer approach. Young, perhaps mid-20s, with a high and tight haircut that spoke of rejected military dreams. He moved with unearned swagger, hand on his holster. Officer Harlan Crow. He stopped at the rear pillar, a tactic to keep her off balance. Amara lowered both windows. "License and registration," he barked. No greeting. "Good afternoon, officer," Amara replied calmly. "May I ask the reason for the stop?" "I said license and registration. Don't make me ask again." His face was flushed, sweat beading under his hat. He leaned in, eyes scanning the interior, lingering on the leather seats, the dashboard, and then the folded army uniform in the back. 3 silver stars clearly visible on the shoulder boards. "Is that a costume back there?" Crow sneered. Amara blinked slowly. "That is my uniform." "Officer, step out of the car." "Officer, I am complying. My identification is in my purse on the passenger seat. I am going to reach for it now." "I said step out now," Crow shouted, unsnapping his weapons retention strap. "You people always have an excuse. Get out." Amara's instincts sharpened. "You people." The phrase cracked the code. This was no routine stop. It was a power play. She narrated her actions. "I am unbuckling my seatbelt. I am opening the door." She stepped into the crushing heat, standing tall despite being 5 feet 9 inches. Her posture made her seem taller. She met Crow's eyes directly. "Turn around. Hands on the hood. Spread your legs," he ordered. "Officer, this is unnecessary. I am a lieutenant general in the United States Army. My identification is in the vehicle. If you check it, I don't care if you're the Queen of England. You swerved. You look intoxicated. And I suspect you of carrying stolen government property." "Stolen property?" Amara's brow furrowed. "That uniform. Stolen valor is a crime here, lady. And driving a car like this on a government salary. Yeah, right. Who's the dealer? Who do you work for?" A cold rage settled in Amara's stomach, the kind she usually reserved for incompetence at the highest levels. But here, on a dusty roadside with a young man barely old enough to grow a beard, holding a gun near her hip, it was dangerous. "My name is Dr. Amara Ellison. I am the Deputy Commanding General." "Shut up!" Crow shoved her. The force was sudden and brutal. Amara stumbled, her hips slamming into the hot metal of the Mustang. "You are making a mistake," she said, voice dropping to the icy tone she used before relieving officers of command. "The only mistake was you driving through my town," Crow spat. He grabbed her left wrist, twisted it behind her back, and snapped the cuff on with a painful click. At that moment, a second cruiser arrived in a cloud of dust. Sergeant Rex Donovan stepped out, older, heavy-set, chewing a toothpick, cheap sunglasses on. "What we got, Crow?" he called, hitching his belt. "Resisting arrest, Sarge. Possible DUI and definitely stolen valor. Caught her with a general's uniform in the back. Says she's a doctor." Donovan laughed, a wet sound. He approached, looking Amara up and down as she stood cuffed against her car. "A general, huh?" Donovan smirked, leaning close enough for her to smell stale tobacco. "You know my daddy was in Nam. I know what a general looks like. And sweetheart, you ain't it." The cuffs bit into Amara's radial nerve. She didn't flinch. She entered operational detachment, the same mindset that had guided her through complex extractions years ago. "Sergeant," Amara said, shifting her gaze to Donovan, "I strongly suggest you check my wallet on the passenger seat. Inside is a common access card. It will verify my rank and clearance. If you continue this detainment without verification, you are violating federal protocols regarding senior military officers." Donovan picked his teeth. "You hear that, Crow? She speaks fancy protocols." "She was reaching for something, Sarge," Crow lied. "I feared for my safety." "Check the car, Crow. Tear it apart. Let's see what she's really hiding." "You do not have consent to search my vehicle," Amara stated firmly. "I do not consent." "Probable cause, lady," Donovan said, tapping the hood. "We smell marijuana." There was no marijuana. The car smelled of new leather and her perfume. Amara watched as Crow dove into her car. He threw her purse onto the asphalt, contents spilling, lipstick, phone, wallet tumbling into the dirt. He ripped open the glove box. Then he grabbed the uniform. Amara's heart clenched. That uniform was prepared for the Pentagon briefing. It was immaculate. Crow pulled it off the hanger, bunching the fabric, and threw it onto the dusty trunk of his cruiser. "Hey!" Amara snapped, composure cracking for the first time. "That is a United States Army uniform. Treat it with respect." "It's a prop," Crow muttered. He dug into the pockets, searching for drugs. "This is insane," Amara said. "Look at the wallet in the dirt. Pick it up." Donovan sighed dramatically and bent to retrieve it. He flipped it open and froze. The ID was not a standard driver's license. It was a vertically oriented Department of Defense access card with a gold chip. Below the photo of a stern-faced Amara, it read, "Ellison Amara. Rank, Lieutenant General. Pay grade, 09. Behind it was a diplomatic passport. Donovan squinted, then looked at Amara. Sunlight glinted off the 3 stars in the photo. "It's a good fake," he said, but conviction had drained from his voice. He looked at Crow. "Looks real technical." "I can print that at Kinko's, Sarge," Crow called from the back seat. "I'm telling you, she's a runner. Probably moving product for the cartels. They use women like this to fly under the radar." "Check the plates again," Donovan ordered. I did. No record. "Because it's a government vehicle masked for security, you idiots," Amara hissed. "It is registered to the Department of the Army." Donovan looked at the card again, doubt creeping in. Cold sweat on his neck, but in Oak Creek, backing down meant admitting error. and admitting error to a black woman in a Shelby Mustang would make him a laughingstock at the station. He had to double down. "Fake ID," Donovan declared, shoving the wallet into his pocket. "That's a felony, forging government documents." He grabbed Amara's arm, spinning her roughly. "You're under arrest, Crow. Get her in the back. We'll sort this out at the station." "I demand a phone call," Amara said, struggling. "I need to contact my chain of command." "You can make a call when we book you," Crow said, grabbing her other arm and dragging her toward the cruiser. "You are making a catastrophic error," Amara said, voice turning to ice. "Officer Crow, Sergeant Donovan, I am memorizing your names. I am memorizing your badge numbers. And I promise you, by sunset, you will wish you had never been born." Crow actually laughed. "Get in the car, lady." He shoved her into the back of the Dodge Charger. The plastic seat was hard and hot. The cage separated her from the air conditioning. It smelled of vomit and disinfectant. As Crow slammed the door, Amara saw something from the corner of her eye. Near a gas station, a young woman with pink hair holding up a smartphone. She was recording. Amara took a deep breath. "Good," she thought. "The world is watching." Crow got in the driver's seat. Donovan took the passenger side. "What do we do with the Mustang?" Crow asked. "Tow it. Impound," Donovan said. "Tell Jimmy to take his time logging it. If she is a runner, we might find cash in the panels." Amara sat in the back, wrists throbbing. She closed her eyes and began to count. She needed to stay calm. She needed to think. She needed a phone. This was no longer a traffic stop. It was a hostage situation. They drove in silence. Amara formulated strategy. When they arrived at the Oak Creek police station, a brick building resembling a fortified bunker, Crow hauled her out and paraded her through the front desk. The desk sergeant, Evelyn, who had been there for 30 years, looked up over her glasses. "What you got, cowboy?" "Identity theft, stolen valor, maybe drug trafficking," Donovan said loudly, chest puffed. Evelyn looked at Amara, at the tailored clothes, the expensive haircut, the way she held her head high despite the cuffs. Evelyn frowned. She had seen drug runners. This woman looked like authority. "Book her," Donovan said. "Put her in holding cell 2, the hot one." "I want my phone call," Amara demanded. "Now." "Processing first," Crow said, pushing her toward the booking desk. They took her fingerprints. They took her mugshot. Amara stared into the camera with a look that would later be called the gaze of judgment. After some time of deliberate stalling, they led her to a cell and uncuffed her. "Phone," Amara said, extending her hand. Donovan rolled his eyes and motioned to a payphone on the wall. "Local calls only. You got 3 minutes." Amara didn't move. "I need my cell phone. It has secure contacts." "No cell phones in the holding area," Crow said. "Then dial the number I give you," Amara said. "It is a Washington, D.C. area code." "I told you. Local calls only," Donovan snapped, growing impatient. Amara stepped close to the bars. "Sergeant, listen to me very carefully. If you do not let me make this call, the military police will not just come for me. They will come for this entire building. I am due for a briefing with General Elias Thorne, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. If I am not there and do not check in, they will ping my phone. They will find it here and assume I have been kidnapped by hostiles." Donovan stared. The name drop landed. Everyone knew that name. "You're bluffing," Crow scoffed. "Give her the damn phone," Evelyn said from the desk, standing up. "I don't like this, Rex. She ain't acting like a junkie. Give her the phone." Donovan hesitated, looking at the ID card still in his hand. "Lieutenant General." "Fine," he grunted. He retrieved her sleek black government-issued smartphone from the property bag and handed it to her through the bars. "One call. Put it on speaker. No funny business." Amara took the phone. Her hands trembled slightly from adrenaline, but her fingers were precise. She didn't call a lawyer. She didn't call family. She dialed a speed dial number, *7, Alpha. The phone rang once. Pentagon Secure Switchboard. Identify. Priority 1 Alpha. Lieutenant General Amara Ellison. Authentication code, Zulu X-ray 94. Patch me through to the chairman's office. Immediate. Donovan's jaw went slack. Crow stopped chewing his gum. Authentication confirmed. General Ellison. Stand by for the chairman. There was a click, a hum of static, and then a gruff, familiar voice filled the booking room. Amara, I'm staring at an empty chair. Where the hell are you? The briefing started minutes ago. Amara looked directly at Sergeant Donovan, eyes burning with vindication. General Thorne, I am currently being held against my will by the Oak Creek Police Department in Georgia. I have been assaulted, handcuffed, and accused of stolen valor by Officer Harlan Crow and Sergeant Rex Donovan. They have seized my vehicle and my service uniform. I am requesting immediate federal intervention. Silence on the line, so profound it felt like the air had been sucked from the room. Then, the voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Say that again, Amara. I am in a cage, sir, in Oak Creek, Georgia. Stay on the line, the chairman said. Do not hang up. Then they heard him shouting to someone in the background. Get me the JSOC commander. Get me the FBI director. And get the governor of Georgia on the line now. Donovan's face turned ashen. He looked at the phone, then at Amara, then at Crow. Oh no, Crow whispered. The silence was suffocating, broken only by Donovan's heavy, erratic breathing. On the speakerphone, the line to the Pentagon remained open, but chaotic shouting had been replaced by the rhythmic clatter of keyboards. Someone logging coordinates with lethal precision. Ma'am, Donovan started, voice trembling, toothpick falling from his mouth. General, if this is a misunderstanding, we can— Quiet! Amara commanded. She didn't look at him. She stared at the analog clock on the wall, watching the second-hand sweep. Suddenly, the phone crackled. Amara, this is Colonel Sophia Reed from the Judge Advocate General's Corps. I'm patching in the Provost Marshal. We have your location. Are you injured? Minor bruising on the wrists and hip. Nothing broken, Colonel. Amara replied, voice steady. But my dignity is currently in a holding cell. Understood. ETA for the advance team is minutes. Fort Stewart has scrambled a reaction force. The FBI field office in Atlanta is airborne. General, the chairman has ordered a full lockdown of that facility. Do not let them touch you again. Copy that. Donovan looked at Crow. The young officer looked like he might vomit. Sarge, what do we do? Reaction force? Is he talking about the army? Shut up, Crow! Donovan hissed. He looked at Evelyn. She was already on the landline, face ashen. Chief, Evelyn whispered into the receiver. You need to get down here now. No, I can't explain. I think the army is invading us. Minutes passed. It felt like an eternity. Then the stale coffee in the mug on Evelyn's desk began to ripple. A low, thrumming sound vibrated the windows, growing louder. A deep, chest-thumping whoop, whoop, whoop that shook dust from the ceiling tiles. The fluorescent lights flickered. What is that? Crow asked, backing away from the door, hand hovering over his gun. Amara smiled, a cold, shark-like smile. That, Officer Crow, is the sound of consequences. Outside, the sleepy town of Oak Creek awoke to a nightmare. Two matte black UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters roared over the main street, flying so low that shingles rattled on antique shop roofs. They hovered directly over the police station parking lot, kicking up a blinding storm of sand, gravel, and regret. Simultaneously, a convoy of 4 black Chevy Suburbans with government plates screeched around the corner, jumping the curb to flank the entrance. They didn't park. They established a perimeter. The front door of the station burst open with a crash that shattered the glass. It wasn't the chief. It was a team of 6 men in full tactical gear, vests emblazoned with FBI and MP. They moved with fluidity and violence of action that made Crow's earlier swagger seem like child's play. "Federal agents! Hands where we can see them! Now!" Crow and Donovan threw their hands up so fast, Crow nearly dislocated his shoulder. "Don't shoot!" Donovan screamed, voice cracking. "We're police! We're police! On your knees, face the wall!" The lead agent, a giant of a man, didn't hesitate. He kicked Crow's legs apart, forcing him down to the linoleum. Behind the tactical team walked a man in a pristine Army service uniform, the green stripes on his sleeves indicating a command sergeant major. He was followed by a woman in a sharp gray suit carrying a briefcase. The sergeant major scanned the room, ignoring the cowering officers, eyes locked on the holding cell. He saw the 3 stars on the ID card lying on the booking desk. He saw Amara standing behind the bars. He marched over, face a mask of controlled fury. "Unlock this door," he barked at Evelyn. Evelyn, shaking so hard she dropped the keys twice, finally unlocked the cell. The clang of the door opening was the sweetest sound Amara had ever heard. She stepped out and rubbed her wrists where the red marks from the cuffs were already bruising. The command sergeant major snapped to attention and rendered a crisp salute that cut the air. "General Ellison, Command Sergeant Major Thorne, 3rd Infantry Division. Ma'am, on behalf of the Army, I apologize." Amara returned the salute slowly. "At ease, Sergeant Major. It's good to see you." "Are these the men?" Thorne asked, turning slowly to look at Donovan and Crow, now kneeling on the floor with FBI agents zip-tying their hands behind their backs. "Those are the men," Amara confirmed. "Officer Crow assaulted me. Sergeant Donovan supervised the violation of my civil rights and destroyed the chain of custody for classified materials." The woman in the gray suit stepped forward. "General, I am Special Agent Vera Lang, FBI Public Corruption Unit. We've been authorized by the DOJ to take jurisdiction. We are seizing all surveillance footage, body cam data, and physical logs." Just then, the back door burst open, and a fat, balding man in a rumpled shirt ran in. Chief Walter Briggs. "What the hell is going on here?" Briggs shouted, red-faced. "You can't just storm my station. This is Oak Creek. I want to see a warrant." Special Agent Lang turned to him, holding up a piece of paper, stamped with a federal judge's seal. "Warrant signed minutes ago by the district court in Atlanta. Chief, we are investigating a conspiracy to deprive a federal officer of rights, kidnapping, and potential racketeering. And given what we know about Route 9 speed traps, I suggest you shut your mouth before you add obstruction to the list." Briggs froze. He looked at Amara. He saw the stars. He looked at the Blackhawks hovering outside. "You arrested a general," Briggs whispered to Donovan, voice barely audible. "You morons arrested a 3-star general." "She looked like a drug dealer, Chief," Crow blubbered from the floor. Amara walked over to Crow. She stood over him, looking down with eyes that had seen war zones. "Officer Crow," she said softly, "you said I looked like a drug dealer. You said my uniform was a costume. You said I couldn't possibly afford my car." She leaned in close. "That car was a gift from my husband for our 25th anniversary. He died in Afghanistan 2 years ago. He was a general, too. And that uniform, I wore it to his funeral. You didn't just disrespect me. You disrespected every soldier who ever wore the cloth." Crow couldn't meet her eyes. He stared at the floor, tears streaming. "Get them out of my sight," Amara said, turning away. While the FBI tore the station apart, searching for body cam footage Donovan had tried to delete, a different war broke out online. The young woman with pink hair at the gas station, her name was Riley, a streamer with a significant following, had uploaded the video with the caption, "Small-town cops assault Black Army general. This is insane." By the time Amara was escorted out of the station into a waiting Suburban, the video had millions of views. It had reached major networks and the White House press secretary's desk. The footage clearly showed Amara complying, Crow shoving her against the hot hood, the uniform thrown like a rag. As Amara sat in the air-conditioned SUV, a medic checking her vitals, her phone buzzed. It was her son, Julian, a corporate lawyer in New York. "Mom, are you okay? I just saw it. I'm looking at the video right now. Mom, I'm going to fly down there and sue them until the town ceases to exist." "I'm fine, Julian. The situation is handled." "Mom, the video is everywhere. People are digging up this guy's past. And, Donovan, the internet found his old posts bragging about taxing out-of-towners." Amara sighed, rubbing her temple. "I need to get to D.C., Julian. I have a job to do." "You're not going to D.C. yet," Julian said. "I just got off the phone with your aide. The chairman wants a press conference. He wants to use this. They want to make an example out of Oak Creek." Amara looked out the window. Outside the station, a crowd was forming. Locals who had seen the helicopters had gathered, but as news of the video spread, the mood shifted. They weren't there to support the police. They were there to witness their downfall. For years, the people of Oak Creek had been harassed by Crow and Donovan. They had paid bogus tickets. They had been intimidated. Now, seeing the feds dragging computers out, they sensed blood in the water. Special Agent Lang opened the car door. "General, we found something you need to see in Crow's locker." Amara stepped out. Lang held up an evidence bag containing jewelry, expensive watches, and rolls of cash. "Trophies," Lang said grimly, "from other stops. It looks like they've been robbing tourists for years, pocketing the cash, planting drugs if they complained. You weren't a random stop, General. You were just the first one who fought back." Amara felt a wave of nausea. "How many?" "We don't know yet, but Chief Briggs's safe has a ledger. It looks like the whole department was running a roadside piracy ring." Just then, a sleek black sedan pulled up. A man in a sharp suit stepped out, the governor of Georgia. He looked terrified. He beelined for Amara, bypassing the chief. "General Ellison," the governor stammered, offering a hand Amara ignored. "I am mortified. This is not who we are. I've already suspended the chief and ordered a state inquiry." Amara looked at the governor, then at the camera crews, setting up behind the yellow tape. "Governor," she said, voice loud enough for reporters to hear, "you allowed this. These men didn't operate in a vacuum. They had badges you issued. They used a court system you oversee. Do not apologize to me. Apologize to the citizens of this town who have been living under a gang with badges." She turned to Agent Lang. "I want my car back, and I want my uniform cleaned." "Your car is being retrieved from impound now, General. We're having it detailed, and the Sergeant Major has already sent your uniform to the base cleaners." "Good," Amara said. "Then I'm ready to make a statement." She walked toward the cluster of microphones. The crowd went silent. She didn't look like a victim. She looked like a conqueror. She adjusted her cuffs, though she wasn't yet in uniform. The phantom weight of the handcuffs was still there, fueling her. "My name is Lieutenant General Amara Ellison," she began, looking directly into the camera. "Today, I was reminded that for some, a badge is a license to hate, but I'm here to remind those people of something else." She paused, letting the silence hang heavy in the humid air. "The oath I swore to the Constitution includes enemies, foreign and domestic, and today I met the domestic kind. The interrogation room at the FBI field office in Atlanta was starkly different. No stained coffee cups, no flickering lights, no good old boy camaraderie. The walls were soundproofed, the table was bolted to the floor, the air was cold and recycled. Sergeant Rex Donovan sat on one side. He wasn't wearing sunglasses or chewing a toothpick. He looked smaller, deflated. Across from him sat Special Agent Vera Lang and Colonel Sophia Reed from the Army's Criminal Investigation Division. "I want a deal," Donovan said, voice raspy. "I know how this works. I give you the big fish. You let the little fish swim." Agent Lang didn't blink. She opened a thick file and slid a photo across the table. A picture of the blue ledger, pulled from Chief Briggs's safe. "We don't need you to give us the big fish, Rex," Lang said, voice dangerously calm. "We already have the ledger. We have the dates, the amounts, and the initials of every officer who took a cut. We know about the tourist tax. We know about the planted evidence in past cases. We know everything." Donovan's face went pale. "Then what do you want?" "We want the narrative," Colonel Reed interjected. "We want to know why you thought you could target a 3-star general. Was she targeted specifically, or are you just that incompetent?" Donovan looked down at his hands. "It wasn't. We didn't know who she was. Crow is an idiot. He saw the car. We have a profile. Expensive cars, out-of-state plates, solo drivers. Usually they pay the fine and leave. They don't fight back." "And the uniform?" Reed pressed. "You saw the stars. You saw the ID." "I thought it was fake," Donovan snapped, sweat beading on his forehead. "You don't understand. In Oak Creek, the law is what we say it is. We didn't think anyone would come for her. We didn't think the Army would send helicopters." "That is the arrogance that ends careers," Reed said. "You didn't just break the law, Sergeant. You threatened national security. General Ellison was carrying classified logistical data for the Eastern Seaboard Defense Grid. By seizing her vehicle and her person, you technically committed an act of domestic terrorism." Donovan choked. "Terrorism? I'm a cop." "You were a gang member with a badge," Lang corrected. "And right now you're looking at 20 years for deprivation of rights, under color of law, plus another 10 for the racketeering charges we're filing against the department. Unless—" Donovan looked up, desperate hope in his eyes. "Unless what?" "Unless you testify against Chief Briggs. And unless you admit on record that Officer Crow falsified the police report regarding the general's resistance." "I'll do it," Donovan said instantly. "Crow is a loose cannon. I told him to cool it. I'll give you everything." In the adjacent room, Officer Harlan Crow was weeping. He wasn't negotiating. He was disintegrating. "I just wanted to be a good cop," Crow sobbed. "The chief, he said if I didn't get my seizure numbers up, I'd be back on mall security. I needed the seizures. The Mustang looked like a jackpot." General Amara Ellison watched the interrogation from behind the one-way mirror. She stood with arms crossed, face unreadable. "Pathetic," she whispered. Standing next to her was her son Julian, who had flown in from New York. He looked at his mother. "They're just bullies, Mom. Take away the badge and there's nothing left." "There is something left," Amara said, turning to walk away. "The damage they caused. We need to make sure they can never do this again. Not to a general and not to a janitor." The investigation didn't stop at the police station. The FBI raided the home of the local judge who had been signing the bogus warrants for asset forfeitures. They found a safety deposit box key hidden in a hollowed-out Bible. The corruption went all the way to the county courthouse. In the weeks that followed, Oak Creek was under siege. Not by the military, but by auditors. Every ticket written in recent years was reviewed. Every arrest was scrutinized. The ledger revealed that the department had stolen millions from motorists over a decade. They had ruined lives, confiscated college funds, and seized cars that were never returned. And it all ended because they stopped the wrong black woman on an ordinary afternoon. The trial of United States versus Crow, Donovan, and Briggs was held in the Federal District Court in Atlanta to avoid jury bias. The courtroom was packed. National media outlets were camped outside. Amara chose to wear her dress blues for her testimony. She wore her ribbon rack, a colorful testament to 30 years of service. Bronze stars, legions of merit, campaign medals from deserts to mountains. When she walked to the witness stand, the room went silent. The contrast was stark. The impeccably disciplined general versus the 3 disheveled former officers in orange jumpsuits at the defense table. The defense attorney for Chief Briggs tried the only tactic he had: character assassination. "General Ellison," he said, pacing before the jury, "you stated that Officer Crow was aggressive, but isn't it true that you were speeding?" "I was traveling at the posted limit, Counselor," Amara said, voice projecting without a microphone. "My vehicle has a GPS data logger installed by the Department of Defense. The logs have been submitted into evidence. I was not speeding." He pivoted. "You admit you were frustrated. You are a powerful woman. You're used to getting your way. Isn't it possible that you escalated the situation? That you used your rank to intimidate these simple country officers?" Amara turned her head slowly to look at the jury. Then she looked back at the attorney. "Counselor, I have negotiated with warlords in Kandahar. I have briefed the President of the United States in the Situation Room. I do not need to intimidate a traffic officer to feel powerful. I offered my identification. I narrated my movements. I followed every protocol designed to keep black citizens alive during traffic stops. The escalation came entirely from the men sitting at that table. But, and let me be clear, I did not use my rank to escape a ticket. I used my rank to survive an assault. If I had been a civilian woman with no connections, no star on my shoulder, and no tracking device in my car, would we be here today? Or would I be just another resisting arrest statistic in Sergeant Donovan's ledger? Objection from the defense table. But it didn't matter. The jury had heard it. The truth hung in the air like smoke. The most damning evidence wasn't the testimony. It was the recovered audio from Officer Crow's body cam. Donovan had tried to delete the video, but he didn't know the new body cams had a pre-record buffer and a backup drive. The FBI forensic team recovered it all. The prosecutor played the clip. Audio crackle. "Crow, is that a costume back there? Crow, you people always have an excuse." The sound of the slam against the hood. "Donovan, I know what a general looks like. And sweetheart, you ain't it." The jury flinched at the sound of the impact. They looked at Amara, sitting tall and dignified. Then they looked at Donovan, staring at the table, face a mask of shame. The real twist came during sentencing. Harlan Crow, the young officer who started it all, broke protocol again. Before the judge could read the sentence, Crow stood up. "Sit down," his lawyer hissed. "No," Crow said, voice shaking. He turned to Amara in the gallery. "General, I was scared. Not of you, of them." He pointed at Donovan and Briggs. "They told me if I didn't bring in a seizure that day, they'd fire me. I have a baby daughter. I wanted to keep my job. I'm sorry." It was a moment of pathetic human weakness. It didn't excuse what he did, but it exposed the rot of the system. Judge Lillian Hart looked over her glasses. "Mr. Crow, fear for your job is not a license to violate the Constitution. You swore an oath to the law, not to your payroll." The gavel came down with a sound like a gunshot. The sentences: Chief Walter Briggs, 25 years in federal prison for racketeering, conspiracy, and wire fraud. Sergeant Rex Donovan, 18 years for deprivation of rights and destruction of evidence. Officer Harlan Crow, 8 years. The judge showed slight leniency due to his cooperation and confession, but the message was clear. Just following orders is not a defense. As the bailiffs led the men away, the clinking of their shackles echoed in the courtroom. It was the same sound Amara had heard that day on the roadside, but now the rhythm was different. It was the rhythm of justice. Amara walked out of the courthouse into a sea of cameras. "General, do you feel vindicated?" a reporter shouted. Amara stopped. She looked at the cameras. "Vindication is personal," she said. "This isn't about me. This is about the fact that it took the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to stop a bad traffic stop. That is not a victory. That is a warning. We have work to do." She walked to her car, the Shelby GT 500, now fully detailed and gleaming. She got in, put on her sunglasses, and drove away. But the story didn't end in the courtroom. In the months that followed, the state passed legislation that mandated independent oversight for all asset forfeiture funds and required body cams to be live-streamed to a cloud server officers couldn't delete. The Oak Creek Police Department was dissolved entirely. Policing duties for the town were handed over to the county sheriff, who hired a diverse force and implemented community policing standards. And Amara, she didn't retire. She was promoted. In the months after the trial, she received her 4th star. General Amara Ellison became the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, with a new portfolio added to her duties, the Office of Institutional Integrity. She was now the one rewriting the rules. 6 months after the events that shook the nation, the landscape of Oak Creek had changed both physically and spiritually. The speed trap billboards on Route 9, once the primary source of revenue, were gone. In their place stood simple signs welcoming visitors to a new beginning. The fortified police station had been gutted and repurposed into a community legal aid clinic and library, funded entirely by the assets seized from the corrupt department. But for General Amara Ellison, the story wasn't quite finished. There was one loose end she needed to tie, not with a rope, but with a conversation. She drove the cherry-red Shelby GT 500 down Route 9 again. The engine purred, 428 cubic inches of American muscle that had been fully restored by the FBI forensics team before being returned to her. She wasn't rushing this time. She was cruising. She pulled onto the same gravel shoulder where Officer Harlan Crow had slammed her against the hood. The dust had settled. The ghosts of the confrontation were fading, replaced by the hum of cicadas in the pines. She got out of the car and walked to the edge of the road near the tree line. She was meeting someone. A beat-up, rusted pickup truck pulled up slowly. A man in his 60s stepped out. He wore a faded flannel shirt, work boots covered in red clay, and a baseball cap that he immediately removed. He looked tired, worn down by a shame that wasn't entirely his own. It was Walter Crow, Harlan Crow's father. He approached Amara slowly, holding his hat in his hands, eyes fixed on the asphalt. He looked like a man who had aged a decade in months. "General," Walter said, voice raspy and thick with emotion. "I didn't think you'd come." "You asked to see me, Mr. Crow," Amara said, keeping a respectful but guarded distance. "I make it a point to answer calls." Walter looked up, eyes rimmed with red. I wanted to apologize to your face for my boy. I raised him better than that. Or I thought I did. I was a Marine general. Vietnam, 71. I taught him to respect the uniform. I don't know where he went wrong." Amara looked at the father's pained face. She saw the tragedy that often gets lost in the headlines. Corruption didn't just destroy the victims. It destroyed the families of the perpetrators, too. Harlan Crow destroyed his own life, but he broke his father's heart. "He got caught up in a rotten system, Walter," Amara said gently. Bad systems corrupt good people. Your son made choices, terrible, cowardly choices, and he is paying for them now. Harlan Crow was currently serving the first year of his 8-year sentence in a federal penitentiary. "I visit him," Walter said, a tear tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. He's different. Scared. He reads a lot now. He asked me to give you this." Walter reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a folded, crinkled piece of notebook paper. Amara took it. She unfolded the sheet. It was a crude pencil sketch of a 1967 Shelby Mustang, and underneath, in shaky block handwriting, "I'm sorry, you were right. It wasn't a costume." Amara stared at the note. It wasn't forgiveness. That was too big a word for this situation. But it was acknowledgement. It was a surrender. "Tell him I received it," Amara said, refolding the paper and placing it in her pocket. "And tell him that when he gets out, the world will be different. He will have to earn his place in it." "But it's not impossible." Walter nodded, wiping his eyes. "Thank you, General. You didn't have to meet me. Most folks would have spit on me." "I am a soldier, Mr. Crow. We don't spit on the wounded. We treat them." Amara turned and walked back to her car. She slid into the driver's seat, the leather warm against her back. As she put the car in gear, her mind drifted to the final tally of justice, the hard karma the media loved to talk about. The aftermath. Chief Walter Briggs sentenced to 25 years in federal prison for racketeering, conspiracy, and wire fraud. He would likely die behind bars. Sergeant Rex Donovan, 18 years for deprivation of rights and destruction of evidence. His wife divorced him the day of the sentencing. The corrupt judge who signed the warrants was exposed by the ledger. He was disbarred and sentenced for judicial misconduct and money laundering. The victim fund. The millions recovered from the scheme were returned to the victims. Families got their cars back, college funds were restored, and Amara, she didn't retire. The ordeal hadn't broken her. It had sharpened her. In the months after the trial, she stood in the Oval Office. The President of the United States pinned a 4th star on her shoulder. General Amara Ellison was named Vice Chief of Staff of the Army with a new special portfolio, the Office of Institutional Integrity. She was now the one rewriting the rules. She checked her mirrors. The road ahead was clear. No traps, no flashing lights in the rear view, just the open highway and the promise of the future. She punched the accelerator. The Mustang roared, tires biting the asphalt, launching her forward. She wasn't running from anything anymore. She was driving toward everything. General Amara Ellison drove on, a guardian of the road, leaving the dust of Oak Creek in her rearview mirror forever. And that is how one traffic stop dismantled an entire corrupt empire. General Ellison proved that true power isn't about the badge on your chest or the gun on your hip. It's about integrity, composure, and the unshakable will to stand your ground. Officer Crow and Sergeant Donovan thought they were hunting a rabbit, but they woke a lioness. They tried to break her, but all they did was break themselves against her resolve. If this story fired you up, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and tells the algorithm you want more stories like this. Share this video with someone who needs to see justice served cold. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story of karma hitting back hard. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.